Hello, my name is Abimbola Olashore, and I'll be sharing with you my thoughts on some of the issues that are affecting all of us in this environment. The problem, or let's say the issue concerning COVID, while they are real, it's also a time for sober reflection. The COVID pandemic has made everybody stand still in one place and assess his or her own environment. Your inability to travel and to enjoy other climate also has made you now look at your environment and say, look, if I have to be stuck here, what exactly are the issues in this environment? How do I survive? How do I live? How do I make it habitable? For some of us, there's always been convenient that, oh yes, I can always travel. So there's an issue with education. Oh, I can always send my kids abroad. I myself can go to a business school. I myself I can do this. There's issue with health. Oh, I can always travel. I'll go and get health care somewhere else. Oh, there's issue with food. If I don't like the food there, oh, when I travel, I can go to Japan and go and eat sushi. I can go to UK and go and eat fish and chips. I can go to US. But when you cannot travel, when you have to stay in your environment, and you know you have to live and survive, it makes you wonder and makes you look at your environment much more closely and see how you yourself can contribute to it. Today, I'll look at the areas that have to do with human capital development. The issue with Nigeria is we have a large population. We have a large population, but we're also a very poor country. Large population should normally be an advantage if you develop that population. It should be something that should give you competitive advantage. It should be something that you can export and sell. But instead, because we are not investing in that particular area, it is now made us the laughingstock. Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world and also has the largest out-of-school children in the world. Now, you start asking yourself, how do you move forward? And what is much more interesting now is some of the decisions being taken by government. I've just had an online discussion with my parents in my school and prospective parents, where the issue of school opening turned up. It was quite disheartening when you see the reaction of government. Just like at the beginning, when we saw that the issue of COVID was a medical issue, and we recognized immediately that we don't have medical facilities, what turned up was a lot of money being voted on to create medical centers. We saw isolation centers coming up. We see people donating money. So we knew we could face the issue of healthcare. All of a sudden now we are on to education. And what you are hearing is, oh, schools are not safe, so therefore they should not open. We are not hearing how much does it cost to fix the schools so that our children can go to school. We are not hearing that this is a national problem. We must have a national discussion about this. What this is now doing is to create a divide. In health, difficult to create the divide because there is no cure for COVID. There is even no vaccine. So if you catch it, whether rich, poor, old, young, depending on your condition, it might have an adverse effect on you. But in the case of education, what I'm saying is that we have a divide now, and we'll have further divide if nothing is done. I'll give my school as an example. As soon as we were told to shut down at Easter, we immediately went online because the school had invested in technology. Most of my students have iPads. So from home, they were able now to log in, and the term went fairly well. Therefore, we were able to continue with our learning, and my kids had a full term of lessons. We even improvised. We were able to do things like our leadership program we took online. All of a sudden, you introduced some of your non-academic activities. You're able to do your gym, your healthcare, your even drama was done online. So you could see that the school just simply moved a lot of activities online. But that is a school like mine that had the resources. Not all private schools have that level of resources. Not to not talk about public schools where there was none at all. So what that means is that there's already a divide. My students have had an additional 1 term of learning. We're going to have a summer program starting in August, where we'll give other kids, not just from my school, an opportunity to join. And they'll also have 4 weeks of learning. In September, whether the campus is open or not, we'll start another online program. Therefore, learning continues. Now, you can see a gap that we already have is now further being widened. When I saw the guidelines on if schools are to reopen, what they should put in place, as a school with a bit of resources, most of the things that they spoke about, we're able to put in place without necessarily asking government for the funds to do it. What about other private schools without the resources? And you're not hearing government talking about how they can help schools bring that up. Education is so fundamental to the success of any environment, of any society. Now, if you keep on having a country with a large population, with uneducated youth, and also having students that are out of school, we are already sitting on a ticking time bomb. What we're not doing is to pull the trigger or remove the pin, and the explosion is not something that we can contain. So what I'm saying now is we must have another look at the way we take decisions. We must ask ourselves, what exactly is the overriding issue that we are trying to confront? What was clear at the onset of COVID? What was clear was that immediately human capital is key. Underpinning human capital is the issue of health and education. We already said access to education and health is a human right. It's in our constitution, but it's not enforceable. Therefore, it's like voluntary for government. Whether you're in school or not, it's not compulsory. What I'm saying is that once we say it's a human right, we have to make it compulsory. It makes it a direct obligation. If it's an obligation on government, nobody will be talking about closure of schools. They'll be talking about how much it's going to cost to make sure the schools are safe to be opened, because we cannot continue with schools being closed. So, looking at this, part of what I'll be discussing therefore is to pick various topics and look at it much more in depth, give more commentary as to what needs to be done, and hopefully keep the conversation going. So at this stage, my issue with government at this point is not that blanket, please, students should stay at home, we are not going to open schools because it's not safe. We have to shift it. If it's not safe, tell us what it will cost to make it safe. What do we need to do as society to make it safe? Government must now look at its own priorities. If you say education, access to education, access to human right, you must prioritize it in your spending. You must look at the budgetary allocation. You must ask yourself, if schools must open and must have a future for our kids, it must be the first line. How much will it cost? It's after you've taken care of that you now start talking about other things. We are still very much worried, even when we look at our budget of the country. Even post-COVID and the amended budget by the government, the budget size is roughly the same. You've not seen a thorough reallocation of the budget to reflect the current realities. I've not seen anything talking about how to drastically reduce the cost of governance. The cost has gone down because we cannot travel, so government itself cannot move around. Everybody has imbibed online technology, so meetings are being held online. So government already having some savings there. Now, for us to still maintain the same level of budget, the same size, what I'm looking for is that as much more now been allocated to the key areas, education and health, because that is what will underpin the future of this country. I've not seen anything along those lines. We are getting increased borrowing. The borrowing that we are taking on, is it targeted towards the areas that will ensure that this country has a future? We are not yet saying that. So therefore, there's still a lot to do, and all of us must contribute to this conversation. Thank you very much.